Dear students, today in this video we'll discuss about how significant is the observation in child and adolescent intervention. Let's move on. So what all things we need to observe? So the initial joining phase, that is the first phase, no? So in that initial joining phase, we have to observe the child's relationship with their parents. So when they are entering into the room, when they leave the parents, or when they enter into that counseling room, how are they reacting, or what are the initial responses from the child, that we have to observe all those things. Then the ease of separation, when we are separating them from their parents, or when they are entering into the room holding the hands of the parents, what are the immediate reactions or responses. Then the child's general behavior, and we have to monitor the self behavior, the direction, the self discovery of the child's general response. Then coming to the general appearance, how the child is dressed, the way the child is dressed, the child's level of alertness, then any obvious discrepancies from normal, then the degree of attractiveness of the child, that is physical development and level of nutrition, any peculiar mannerisms of the child. So example, in case of tics or other things. As you can see in this picture, you can see many oddities, like the child is disappropriate, or in not in proportion with the height or the weight or the age, and then the oddities in their mannerisms and the physical appearance, that is microcephaly, the head is big, and the way the child is dressed, that is misplacing the shoes, then the coat has been put in opposite directions, and so on. So, while observing the behavior, we have to observe, note down whether the child is quiet and careful, or noisy, boisterous, that means very impulsive and aggressive and destructive, distractible, or what is attention span of the child. Then whether the child is engaging in any behavior that is dangerous, then the child is willing to take risks. So all these traits can be visibly seen in terms of ADHD and ASD children. Okay, then whether the child is affectionate and dependent on the interaction of the counselor, then the child's response to the physical contact, whether the child is defensive or responsive or searching for contact, then whether the child is maintaining any appropriate boundaries. Then there is any presence of defense mechanisms such as suppression, avoidance, denial, and any indications of dissociation are present. Then, while observing the child's mood or affect, we have to observe any behaviors uh, that gives any clues to the child's underlying emotional state is visible. So, whether the child is showing little or no emotion, being flat in affect, that means apathetic or self-absorbed, all these things we have to observe. And behaviors that are already observed will also give information about the child's internal mood or emotional state. Okay, so if the child is exhibiting aggressive play, then maybe the child is angry in nature. Then changes in mood during the counseling session, child's awareness of their own moods and their level of emotional reactivity during the session. All these things we have to note down. Coming to observing intellectual functioning and the thinking processes, we have to consider their age also. So the young children, that is aged from 4 to 8, their initial indication of intellectual function is by doing puzzles, naming body parts and identifying colors, which we have to incorporate in our session also. So older children, their general conversation will point to the ability of the child to solve problems and to conceptualize, and will give an indication of level of insight. Now observing the child's speech and language. So whether they are engaging in a conversation, or is there any inadequacy in communication, or are they frustrated, or what all nonverbal methods of communication they are relying on, and if there are any evidences of stuttering and stammer, we have to note. Then, regarding observing the motor skills, we have to note the child's involvement with activities in the play therapy room, whether the child sits most of the time or works, jumps, runs, or squat, how the child's move in and out of positions, or whether it is with ease or with difficulty, whether the child appears constricted in their physical expression or free, then regarding their breath holding, sighing, or grasping. Then coming to observing the play. So are they playing appropriate to their age? What all materials they are using? Then what all themes? What is the content of the play? What is the quality of the play? Whether the play is goal directed or aimless or following an understandable sequence, whether the play materials are being used appropriately, then whether the play is creative or stereotypic, repetitive and limited. Because it will give an indication of the child's level of developmental maturity. So the counselor might notice that a child can use object substitution in play. So observation has a clear cut indication on later. So the counselor may also make note of whether the child's play is regressed, infantile, or maybe pseudo mature. So we have to consider their age also. Then, considering the age, 3 to 5 year old children may be highly imaginative and creative. There will be more expression of fantasies, and themes may be well developmentally appropriate behavior. So, the child's mode and intensity of affecting play should also be observed. So, considering observing the child's relationship with the counselor, we have to observe that there is any transference or resistance is taking place. So, the child's warmth and friendliness, the eye contact, social skills level, and the predominant interactional style. Whether the child is mainly withdrawn, isolated, friendly, trusting, mistrustful, competitive, negativistic, cooperative, and so on. Then the child may be fully aware of the counselor's interest in storytelling. So, in order for this to happen, the counselor will make use of active listening skills. So, these are major observation skills aspects that we have to note down while taking the sessions. So, yeah, now I hope the concepts are clear for you. If you have any queries, please feel free to ask. I'll come back with another video. Stay tuned.